right, so we are here with Miss Gloria Ashley and Mr. Barry Mcleod, who play Barbara and Harry Davis in the play Divorcing Us. So from what I've been told, Mr. Barry, you are the writer of this play. So tell me what the inspiration kind of was behind it, and without spoiling it, if you can give us a synopsis of what we have to look forward to.
I wrote Divorcing Us because I wanted to, I had been through a divorce, and I had also had a couple of relationships that didn't work out, that was not expected to not work out. But I decided that I wanted to do something that would be healing for relationships, you know, that kind of could restore relationships, you know, on a level where people who really have something really special and they deserve to have it, and you know, so many times people lose it off of things that are not really worthy for them to lose it. So I wanted to do a production that could kind of show people who they are and how they are, and then kind of show the value of what they have. And I wanted to do it without saying that that's what I was doing. So we just wanted to just do the art of it and kind of provoke people to look at it, experience it, absorb it, and maybe dig deep within and kind of explore some thoughts that are personal to them.
So putting them in that scenario and kind of delivering that message across through your own experiences, and then kind of what's already been, you know, written through the play as well.
Yeah, a lot. There's several things inside the play that I actually experienced, and because of the nature of my other job, which is a hairstylist, where I for a lot of years I've listened to what women say, and I realized that I'm not so unique. There's a lot of people who experience what I experience and have some of the same thoughts that I have. And so it made me realize that, you know what, this needs to be put into some kind of perspective. And so all of that had a lot to do with the premise for me just writing the production from the very beginning. And I just wanted to show people some very natural human behaviors and thought processes that we all have, regardless of where we're from, regardless of age. Well, I shouldn't say so much age, because you know, younger people may not have experienced some things. Right. But if you're in a relationship, you're going to deal with some of the things that we deal with.
Right.
So that just, all of that went into the writing part of it. You know.
So I like that. I like that you took not only your personal experience, but you took into consideration what you were hearing from others.
Absolutely.
And especially women, and being able to kind of mold that together to create this piece.
Absolutely.
Gloria, as a woman, how did you relate to your character as Barbara Davis? How was that for you?
Well, as a woman, Barbara Davis is a praying woman. She's definitely one who loves family, loves, you know, her position and role in family. And that for me is pretty much me. You know, I go to God for everything when it comes to my family, my personal family. I've been married over 25 years, and we have 5 beautiful daughters, and they are the most important thing to us. Right. My philosophy is, you know, God first, then my husband, and then my children. So with that role that she plays, we connect with that order and that fervent belief in prayer to try to handle things at home and in home and right, you know.
So in Barry, the way that you wrote the play, and bringing in your own personalities into the characters, did you see a lot of overlap? Were there areas where you're in character and you're going through the motions, but in your head you're kind of like, I would have done this differently, or I could have done this instead. Does that ever play a role in, how you portray the character and kind of how you take on your character?
It definitely does for me. I have to, like he said, when you hear other people's stories where it doesn't apply to your own personal life, you can kind of, find the empathy and internalize that feeling or that emotion to connect with the character itself. So the overlap would be either, does this relate to me? Have I gone through this? Or do I know someone who's gone through this? And being a certified life coach, I hear a lot from women, and being a mentor to women, I can kind of decipher how to portray this character at this precise time, this fitting to his message that he wanted to portray in the play.
For me, what actually happened was, okay, I wrote this story, and I felt pretty confident about how it was going to play out on stage. But you never really know a lot of things until you actually put it out there and see what happened. So the first time that we did it, I had these thoughts about how this scene was going to work and how this scene was going to affect somebody and what kind of reaction I was going to get. But once I did the show the very first time and I saw how people actually responded to it, then I was able to go back and reassess some things and tweak some of my performance and even some of my thoughts. There's some things in this play that when I wrote it, I never even considered that they would be funny.
Talk to me about some of the responses. So clearly humor was one of them, that people laughed at a time that you might have thought that maybe it wasn't supposed to be funny, but they found humor in it. Tell me about some of the other responses that you received that you kind of had to, manipulate a little bit to recreate in the next one.
Well,
get them, girl.
What I figured out was that for me to play Harry but actually be Barry brought the natural. So I kind of was comfortable once I saw that people responded favorably. So
did it make you loosen up a little bit?
Yes, it absolutely made me loosen up a whole lot. But I ended up realizing that I put myself in a situation that sometimes I wasn't really ready for some of the energy that was going to come back up on that stage to me. So I kind of adapted to a lot of things while I was actually performing. And then seeing that it worked so well, then I was like, okay, I gotta keep that, But then after the show is over with and the crowd is gone and I'm alone, I would reflect and I would think about, okay, why was that good? Why did they appreciate that like that? Why should I keep this? And why should I let this go? And I just started growing with it. Now, I'm proud to admit that this is the third actress that I have worked with this play. And the other two were very talented. But working with a Gloria Pringle Ashley.
It's only one.
It's only one.
It's only one.
And the assignment was to be able to for the wife to stand up to her husband, this guy, because I'm strong. And
she brought that, didn't she?
Woo!
Which was a little different for me, personally, in real life.
But you owned it, and I think I appreciate too that both of you are able to put yourselves out there, and that essentially that's what you do. You're putting part of your personal life out there. You are connecting with the character, but then you are bringing God back into a marriage, and even just being a play itself, you're acknowledging that, and I think that as your foundation is amazing. Tell me the difference between having God in something and doing it on your own and not having him in there. How has that been for a reaction from people?
Well, all the work that I've done, I did it out of prayer. So I never really, everything from the very first thing that I ever did, it was Christian based, and it was, and I saw the God that I served to lead me and guide me through it. So that was the foundation of it. So I never really had to consider with or without. Maybe I didn't really grasp the essence of your question, but he was always in the forefront of everything. The rest of it is just art. How to be wise enough and talented enough to show that, okay, within this humanness that is demonstrated without him versus when it's calculated to bring him into it. But he was always a part of it.
And I think that's what I'm asking, is not necessarily you per se, because God has been a part of it this whole time, but your audience. So helping your audience to understand how important it is to have God at the center of it. And that sometimes when you talk about human nature, us being humans, we tend to think that we can stand on our own. We kind of want God there, but kind of need to do my thing for a second. And you are directly showing what happens when you keep God at the forefront and you keep God there.
Well, see, one of the other amazingly beautiful things about this show from an audience, from a collective process with us versus the audience, is that so many of the people in the audience are church-going people. And so when they have the opportunity to, they come knowing that, okay, this is a church-friendly play or a Christian play or whatever. But then when they see us portraying them, they have the opportunity to realize that even though I know God, even though I'm in church every Sunday, I still behaved like that.
I think, too, that with the play, there are phases in the play where you clearly see that it's not God-centered. We are in our flesh, and we're repeating mess. We're regurgitating mess from our past, currently, what we expect our future to look like.
Yeah.
But then there's a moment where God steps in, not because we're seeking him, but because our hearts, we're not verbalizing it, but our hearts are saying it, what we need for this marriage. And God says, okay, since you won't slow down, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, and let me do it this way.
Talk to me about the reaction from the audience. So coming in, they may or may not have an expectation of what they may have formulated their own. They may not know fully, but coming in, where do you kind of see them, the responses that they have when you first start versus when they see God show up and show out?
When they see us go from mess to message.
Exactly. And then at the end of it, that takeaway. Take me through those phases.
Well, I know for me, and you tell me your thoughts as well, but see, when they see the play for the very first time, they don't know how it's going to happen, so they can't expect it or anticipate it. So when they see how it's going to happen, because I know when I was working on that on the script in that area, I was trying to make sure I got that right and realistic and reasonable and all of that to show how the divine intervention actually occurred. But I wondered if the audience was going to find that to be feasible, the way I did it.
You mean in their situation?
Well, just as far as watching the performance of the play. So the fact is they did. They bought into it 100%, and then it kind of showed people that, see, this is how God works. And we don't know how he's going to do what he's going to do. And so I think that's how they were able to have the appreciation for the divine intervention the way that they did, because they didn't see it coming. We gave no clue of it, because it truly happened in a divine intervention kind of a way, and in a way that most people would not have expected. So to see us go from here to there. I think by the time it happened, they were ready for us to.
Oh yeah, they were.
They were
They
ready.
were.
They were ready for us to.
That's true.
For God to come in.
And then
you know,
that's when you really, really see the strength of Barbara, the power of just a fervent praying wife, and that's really, really. I love that part because that's what I can totally relate to right there. And I would have to say for me, when, I try to relate as a character, like he said, sometimes he makes changes literally during the play based off of the audience's feedback. So I have to kind of follow where he goes.
Right.
I'm like, oh, let me keep, woo.
but she does it. She does it effortlessly. Okay, she does it effortlessly.
When we get near the God stepping in, his divine intervention, I think a lot of me becomes that character. I would have to say that, especially at the very end.
Well, what I like about that part of the play is that the strength in me as this male character, it fuels a lot of the men in the audience.
That was my next question. Thank you.
And so it kind of affects them in a way that, okay, yeah, man, it's time to, let it go. Just let it go. God got this, and we got to be humble to it. So it's like a really teaching kind of a moment,
Right.
where real men and strong men, alpha males, if you will, where they kind of say, okay, we always knew this, but we never would admit it to nobody, but God got me and I can't do nothing about it right now. So
Do you think it's because they haven't, it's not something that they see, like another male or alpha male in that role and standing up and being able to say, like, notice their own faults and be able to work through things, and then being in that place where they can see it, it gives them that sense of maybe validation a little bit, but also the freedom and the ability to be able to say, okay, I'm ready.
I think that a lot of people know. I think a lot of people are wise enough to know, but being wise enough to know something and being able to humble yourself to a situation and just be free to just let God have his way with you, that's sometimes for a lot of men, it will take some divine intervention for that. Because even though we're smart enough to know that Superman is fiction, and we got this soft side that's in us that we don't want nobody to know about, we don't know a lot of times how to, on our own, let that go. So sometimes it will take divine intervention, but we're wise enough. We're wise enough to know. So when they see Harry, my character Harry, when they see Harry break down, because in that moment, we're overwhelmed by the divine intervention, but my wife actually takes the lead on where I need to go. She takes the lead on it, and she does it so heartfelt and so humble that I'm not in a position to try to be Mr. Cool and Mr. Hard. I got to just get real and say, okay, my wife got this right, and it ain't but one thing for me to do. It's just follow the example that she's setting for me right now. And that is an awesome moment for a man to experience. Even if he doesn't want to admit that to his best friend, he knows that when the time comes, he needs to step up to the plate like that. He needs to just go ahead and do it because it's needed. It's needed. We just don't always want to admit it or show it.
I think that's the wonderful thing about, strong alpha males. They don't want to lose control. But when God says so, and then there's no other choice but to let go, then they have to let go. And it teaches also to them that your wife is your helpmate. So when you are at a moment of weakness, when God directs you to marry the right woman, she's your strength. you complete each other. And that's what, you know, that message is for a lot of couples. You're not against each other. This is not a competition. This is a partnership that's lifelong. It's a journey to take together. So when one is strong and if the other's sick, you pick them up and vice versa. And I believe that message really extends to a lot of men.
So you show that complementary side of a marriage and removing kind of the ego essentially from both sides to be able to have that complement.
Which is why it is essential, in my opinion, to have in this scenario a helpmate who is smart and knows what needs to be done. Because a lot of times people put their selfishness and their egos first. And sometimes you're in a situation where that doesn't count. And in Barbara's situation, Barbara is smart. She knows the right thing to do. She is on point with what needs to be done in that situation. So I have no other choice but to follow that confidence, because I already know that she's smart. We've been married 25 years.
Right.
I already know that she's smart. So, but you know, so many times people say, no, I want you to do this because I said so. I want to take the lead on it. But do you know what you're doing? Do you know why you're doing it? Can you make realistic sense out of it? So it's bigger than just ego and arrogance and all of that kind of stuff. You know, you got to really know what you're doing in a certain situation.
So talk to me about some of the feedback that you've received after those who, you know, the audience that has seen the play. What has their take been on it?
You know, I did this show. There's actually three situations on three different shows where I had people come up to me after the show and they said something to me that stuck with me. The very first one was this lady that was on the other side of the room at the end of the show, and I saw her walking slowly toward me. And this lady looked like she was somewhat older than I was, than I am. And when she finally got up to me, that lady, she got up right here and she looked me square in the eyes, and I was just wondering all this time, what is this lady finna say to me? And she said, "You have blessed me." And it blew me away. And that's when I knew that even though I did not play with this production, I knew that I could never afford to play with people's lives and their relationships. And there were a couple of other very key situations that happened where people said something to me that it grabbed me and it would never let me go. But really, when you see people, the other one was like I had a customer in the salon, and she had been my customer for 10, 12 years. And sometimes, you know, people have trouble and you cannot tell it from the outside.
Right.
And from the way they look on the outside, you think that was just a model cup marriage, everything. It was just, they were in love. And I'm sure they were in love, but they were having issues that was borderline. And she talked her husband into coming to see the show. And there's this one scene in there where we talked about a cruise, our experience on a cruise. And they had actually did exactly what we did. They went on a cruise to try to do some damage control in their marriage. And so when she came to the salon the next week to get her hair done, she said, "Barry," they lived like about 20 minutes away from where the show was. And he said, "Me and my husband talked all the way home, and that scene what y'all did from the cruise, y'all just don't know how much of a difference that made to our marriage." Those, man, that's when I feel so thankful to God that he blessed me to be able to put that, script that, and that we're able to perform it and be able to be a blessing to people like that.
And you're giving people hope.
Giving them hope.
You
And
are.
I've also heard that, you know, the play is just right now relevant. It is so relevant to marriages and the struggles that we face.
Right.
You know, people don't seem to want to put the time in to fight. fight for it, not fight against one another, but fight and stay the course, you know, and utilize the resources available to them, beginning with God.
And in this play, you help to decipher between the two, fighting against and
Yes.
fighting together for something.
Together for something versus against, you know. That's again where we go from the mess to the message.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
What ultimately do you want your audience to take away from Divorcing Us?
Sustaining, you know, being on one accord, communicating, trying to understand one another. You know, the whole Venus and Mars. We joke about that a lot during rehearsal, actually, you know. But most importantly, how to do things with class and respect and dignity and in unity as a couple, whether they're preparing for marriage or already married, 5 years, 25 years, it doesn't matter. You have to do it together. It's no more I. It is a we thing, you know? It's down to business.
Yeah.
What about you, Mary? What's your main takeaway from this?
I would like for people to recognize, to like, if it takes soul searching, fine, but to recognize what humanness is. See, a lot of times we do things that we think are mistakes, and they may not feel good to somebody else, but it is all within our humanness. You know, it doesn't matter whether you're married to this person or that person. Some of these same mistakes are going to happen. Some of these same errors are going to happen. And they should not be the defining thing that determines whether your relationship is going to break. It should just be a part of your relationship or your marriage working, not being destroyed.
Right.
You know, and so
And how to move forward.
Yeah.
How to move forward.
yeah, you know, so it's like, you know, okay, so somebody spent way too much money this year.
Who?
I'm just saying in general. That
She
should
went into
not
character really quick.
I went into character, that's right.
Barbara came out.
that should not determine if a divorce should be on the table. It's a part of a marriage. It's a part of a relationship. Sometimes things like that happen. It might have been dumb, you know, but that's a part of our humanness. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. And the thing that I love about this play is that it's about not one person, but it's about two people. You know, and two people got flaws. Two people have positives, and two people have negatives. And so, you know, get the mirror and be honest. Just be honest. Come on, let's be honest, and realize that the next time you're in a situation where you make a mistake, and you know you love this person you've made the mistake with, okay, you know you love them, you made a mistake, all right, forgive them. And reciprocate. And keep it going. Because we have to remember that children, a lot of times when they're young and they're playing on the floor with their toys and they look like they're in another world, they're listening and paying attention to everything.
Absolutely.
They don't miss nothing.
Yep.
And so we're setting this example for them, and we got to pay attention to that we're actually setting an example. Even if it's your nieces and your nephews, even if it's your neighbor's children that are coming over to play with your children, they are paying attention to us. And we're setting examples for them, and it may not look like they're paying attention to that, but they are. And then they turn out to be some of these things that we made for as examples for them. And we got to be mindful of that kind of thing.
That's a powerful word. Forgiveness.
Forgiveness, yes.
That's very powerful.
And I was going to ask if you could choose one word to describe what a marriage is, what would that be?
One word, I would say it would have to be love. I would say it'd have to be love because, you know, whoever said love conquers all, well, it might sound cliche, but it should be true.
It's in
Should
the
be
Bible.
foundation.
It should be.
A multitude of sin.
Yeah, because one thing that I've learned is when you care about something, to the degree that you don't want to not have it, that's a game changer. That's a game changer. It could be your car,
Yeah.
you know. It could be anything, but you care so much about it, you are unhappy if you don't have it. So if you really love somebody and you know it, you know good and well, you're not going to be happy if you don't have that person that you love. So you have to nourish it. And it has to be reciprocated. And yeah, men are from Mars, and that Venus-Mars thing, that's real, but you know, somehow,
Watch it.
here we
Watch
are.
it.
Here we
Gloria,
are.
what would yours be? What
Actually, I do like love. I do like the love component, because when you are able to love someone, then you actually can love them in spite of their faults and flaws. That's what love truly, truly is. It's not just the physical spirit, because that changes over time.
Absolutely.
It's loving that inner heart. And then since he did say love, I'll just throw in forgiveness as well. Because when you're able to forgive them, then you're able to connect with that human part of them. They're not perfect.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not perfect, he's not perfect. And so we're trying to give that message that even though we're not perfect, we're trying, you know, and we love one another. And we're able to forgive one another and move forward because of the love that we have. And because God is love.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
How many more experiences will we have to be able to see the phenomenal duo take the stage in Divorcing Us?
How many more shows you mean?
How soon one is coming up?
We have a show this Saturday coming.
Awesome.
And then we have another show next month that we're going into Jacksonville, Florida.
Nice.
And we're trusting God that we're going to do so well in Jacksonville that our next stop will be Atlanta. And then we're going to come back to Florida and do a couple of cities here in Florida. So the best way for people to know what's going on is to go to my website, barrysmcleod.com, and stay in the loop of what's going on.
That's so awesome. And I'm so excited for what's in store for the both of you, you know, as Gloria Ashley and Barry Mcleod, but also as Barbra and Harry Davis.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
you're so
allowing me to sit with you guys and pick your brains on, you know, what this means to you, what this has meant to you in creating it, and where it's about to go.
Yeah, and by the way, for the record, it's Florida's own Barry S. McLeod.
Okay. All right. Let's make sure that they get that right. So
Yeah, we got to get that right, because I've been blessed to be able to do some shows in different cities here in Florida. And somebody said to me down south somewhere we were at, and they said, you know what, you Florida's own. And I said, yeah, you know what, I like the sound of that. And then we went up to the St. Augustine area, and somebody else said it to me. And so then I decided that, yeah, I'm going to stand tall and bold and represent the state of Florida. This is where I'm from. So it's Florida's own Barry S. McLeod.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to everything that's in the future for you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.